What was it like when Let Your Backbone Slide took off? Like, what did that feel like?
Like an out of body experience, man. Like because you got to understand, I'm the first black artist in Canada, not first rap artist, the first black artist in Canada to ever go gold, platinum, or what have you.
I mean, it's great to get a chance to talk to you. We've had you on sort of for very. We had you on about the Raptors before. We had you on about I think about a book you wrote before. But I've never really got a chance to talk to you about sort of the whole journey of you in Canadian hip hop, which is obviously so important. And I was struck by the fact that when you were like 11 years old, you were writing poetry and you were studying piano. What kind of kid were you like to be into that at 11 years old?
I mean, I heard Rapper's Delight, and after that, it was over, man. It was like, after I heard that, it was like, you know what, let me try this too. This sounds real cool. And I was hooked ever since. That was 1979, you know? And I wrote my first rap. I can't remember it, the very first one, but I performed it in the sixth grade. Our Lady of Good Counsel Catholic School. It was supposed to be like a winter poem I was supposed to recite, but the cadence and syncopations was like, you know, MCing, and the crowd went wild, and the teacher gave me a funny look like, what's this guy doing here? You weren't supposed to do that, you know?
Do you remember that? Do you remember that poem?
No, I don't remember that poem, but I did it like you know, like Grandmaster Caz's verse, you know what I'm saying? Like I did it in a hip hop cadence, which was like, you know, the crowd, you know, the school went like, wow, this is awesome. My teacher, my sixth grade teacher, gave me a look like, she didn't say anything because she knew I was nice, right? But she did not think I was going to perform it like that, you know?
Were you an artsy kid? Were you into the arts growing up?
I was more into like sports, you know? But like I said, music, I had a music background for the fact that my dad always, you know, there was always music in the house because my father always bringing in records, like if it was reggae, calypso, you know, if it was jazz, what have you, you know, he was really instrumental, no pun intended, in my, you know, my come up with that. So
what did he make of, I mean, he's listening to jazz and calypso and all this music in Toronto. What did he make of it when you start coming home with hip hop records?
Well, he brought me the hip hop records. My dad brought home, he went to New York and he came back with Rapper's Delight. He came back with Curtis Blow's The Break and a rhyme that changed my life, a record that changed my life, rather. The Adventures of Super Rhymes by Jimmy Spicer. After I heard Super Rhymes, I thought I had superpowers, man. That was the one that really put the battery in my shoulder to let's go with this, you know?
So he went to New York and he came back with those three records.
He came back with those three records. Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight.
Yeah.
And he came back with The Breaks. And then he had it was on Daz Records. It was called The Adventures of Super Rhyme. Yeah,
man.
I believe it was in like I heard those records back to back to back. You know, even though Sugar Hill Gang came out in '79, those were the first three hip hop records I heard. But the one that really, obviously from a mainstream perspective, it was Rapper's Delight. But from like an underground record, man, this guy Jimmy Spicer, when he came with Super Rhymes, I was like, yo, this is it right here. This is my guy.
What was exciting? I should say I know the first two tracks. I don't know that track you're talking about. Like what was exciting to you about it?
Rhymes faster than a speeding bullet, has more rhymes than the train has tracks. Able to leap sucker MCs in a single rhyme. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, I'm super rhymes. I'm like, yo, this guy's so dope. That's my guy right there. You know, he wouldn't stop rhyming. The song was like 15 minutes of bars after bars after bars after bars, man. I was like, wow, this is really dope. And then to etch it in stone, afterwards, a little while after that, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five came with The Message. That's when I knew afterwards that this is cool having like party records, braggadocious records, but wow, this genre of music, you could actually have social commentary, you know, in music. And that really, those four records really molded me into who I am, you know, as an artist from the embryonic stage.
Was there much of a scene? Was there much of a hip hop scene in Toronto at that time?
Now, all we knew was Sunshine, Super Sounds, Kilowatt, sound crews. That's all we had in Toronto, sound crews. You know, I tip my hat off to Sunshine. They're based out of Scarborough, but they did like all the parties across Toronto. You know, word of mouth. The MCs at the time was a brother by the name of Butch Lee, Sugar C, Dexter Mack. But Butch Lee, he was like that guy. And that's just from my DJ Greg telling me about it, because he was like 3 years older than me. But he was the one that was telling me about these guys. His eyes would light up every time he talked about this guy named Butch Lee, how dope he is. So I'm like, maybe in my mind, based on how excited he is about Butch Lee, hopefully I'll be like that one day, you know?
I got to talk to Ron Nelson, who hosted this show called, I mean, you know this for people who don't know, hosted this show called Fantastic Voyage, which is like the OG, like the most, maybe the most important like hip hop show in Canadian history. And he said he had you on when you were like 14 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah, I was 15 years old, 1982 or 83. And I went by the name of Melody MC. That was my rap name back in the day. So that's why a lot of people mix up my timelines, Tom. They think I came out in the late 80s, or they try to push me and make me like a 90s rapper. Meanwhile, you know, I've been doing this for a minute, and I was well received and well known in Toronto under the moniker of Melody MC. And when I was on Fantastic Voice program, just to hear Ron Nelson say, yo, that's Melody MC, he's 15, and damn, he's good. After I heard that, that was like, okay, I could do this, you know? And everybody was tuning in. It was a radio station out of Ryerson, CKLN 88.1 FM. But imagine going to school on Monday morning and your teachers at school say, yo, we heard you on radio, man. That was dope. So I had like my school backing me, you know, the community backing me. And to make it even doper, my man DJ Greg, but we went to Senator O'Connor High School at the same time, and he put me on to Peter and Anthony Davis, who went to O'Connor as well. And they ended up producing Let Your Backbone Slide, you know? So years later, obviously we're fast tracking, but I'm just saying from that point, you know, I think Ron likes to call that the drought years of like 83 to 87. Well, I was definitely one of those MCs doing shows. I opened up for like UTFO back in the days. Beastie Boys under a rap group named Vision.
Yeah.
Was the group featuring myself, Melody MC, and my MC partner, Ebony MC, who came up with that title, Vision, because he liked Houdini. He said, we were looking for a cool name, but he said he wants a one-word name. So when he came up with Vision, I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then I started doing little graphics. I turned the two eyes into two microphones in Vision, you know, and he was always saying we should wear suits. We should always look different from everybody else, you know? So he encouraged me to like, you know, listen to him. And then later on, I'm wearing the black tuxedo. So, you know, a lot of things that happened back in the days in my come up from the early 80s helped me be the artist I am today.
So is the story that I heard about you true, that you were a security guard out in Scarborough, and you would be able to write rhymes while you were working security?
Yeah, because that was my job to pay for my demo tapes and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So at Parkway Mall, which was right across the street from my high school, you know, I did the graveyard shift, right? And from that, I could just focus on my music, focus on my rhymes, focus on that. In the daytime, you know, when I get off work, I go to the studio and pay my engineers, you know?
You were hungry, man. Like I could tell you were hungry for it back then. Yeah,
man. I mean, it's like, this is going to happen, you know? I mean, I'd be lying to say I wasn't motivated by Beat Factory, you know, and I'll be honest with you, man, like 1987 was the first time I was ever called old. You old, man. You old school, man. You old. You finished. And I was like, not 1997, 1987 was the first time people started calling me old.
So like before kind of anything really happened on a national scale for you, people were already saying you were kind of washed up and already kind of old.
Because they knew they were listening to me from 82, 83, you know? And it was a changing of the guard. It's no longer just how cool you are opening up for U.S. acts who come to Toronto or making your cute little demo tapes, you know, with your cassettes. It's like the next wave is vinyl. The next wave is actually putting out vinyl, getting a record deal, you know, And that's where it was. So it was a changing of the guard. So even though people knew of me in the early 80s, it was like I was old, because the new wave coming in is like Beat Factory, with artists like Michie Me and LA Love actually putting out vinyl, connecting with MC Light and what have you. That was the next wave. It wasn't about how many parties you rocked in Toronto anymore. It's like, what are your connects in New York? And do you have vinyl? Can a DJ actually spin your records in, And so I'm old now. This is like, you're old, So that's when I changed my name from Melody MC to the Maestro Fresh Wes in 1988, because I had to reinvent myself. So that's why I came with the black tuxedo, connecting with an Electric Circus. The legendary dance artist Stevie B just so happened to be visiting Toronto when I was performing for the very first time a song called Let Your Backbone Slide. And he connected us with the label that he was signed to, which was LMR Records. And then the rest is history right there,
What was it like when Let Your Backbone Slide took off? Like, what did that feel like?
Like an out-of-body experience, man. Like, because you got to understand, I'm the first black artist in Canada, not first rap artist, the first black artist in Canada to ever go gold, platinum, or what have you. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people gave me love. A lot of people didn't know how to love, how to give love, because this is a new genre of music. There's a lot of misconceptions, like I came out of nowhere, but all the MCs around my time, they knew they couldn't really say much, but humbled themselves because they knew I paid my dues. It was unreal, man. It was an unreal time. I was numb because I couldn't believe that we actually did something so monumental, and it really made a difference in terms of the impact of how people check for Canada.
It made an impact on your own life as well. I'm going to play you a clip right now. See if you recognize the voice you're about to hear, and take a listen to this.
I just knew that all of a sudden there were girls like in cars riding by our house slowly, and we would get a lot of hang up calls all of a sudden. And at school, this came out when I was in grade 9. So thanks, Wes. High school was amazing.
You're welcome.
But yeah, like people were all of a sudden interested, and then there was just more and more attention, and he would be getting interviews, and it was just a snowball effect. Tell
me who we just heard from, and what do you make of it?
Well, that's my sister, my favorite sister, DJ Mel Boogie. As soon as I heard, I'm like, yo, that's Mel. What's she saying now,
She's saying that the girls were calling the house trying to find you and getting a lot of attention.
Man, listen, man, it was a blessing, man. It was a blessing with the music and people check for me. It was a beautiful thing, man, and I appreciate being appreciated. And I love my sister, man. I'm very proud of her accomplishments as well.
What did your family make of this newfound fame you had?
I remember when I got my Juno, my dad was like, I'm proud of you. That's the first time he ever said that to me that I remember. But like, I know he's proud of me anyway. But like, I remember him telling me that, like, and he was a major, influence. Like I told you, he's my photographer. He shot my first album cover. The first album cover and the first single cover was photographed by my dad. You know what I mean? So, he was very supportive of me, my father.
And your folks were proud of you. They were proud that you had kind of done this.
No doubt.
I remember when I was getting ready for this interview, I listened to Black Tie Affair, which is the record that came out after that. And, that's a record with a great social conscience, Wes.
I could have said, let me just try to do party records and that's that. But I'm like, this is bigger than me doing music, man. This is me making an impact on my community. And my slogan is, before I knew what it was, is don't make records, make history. You see what I'm saying? It's not about just making a record. It's about doing something and saying something that people remember you years and years later, that resonate like a ripple effect. You see what I'm saying? So I knew I was a part of that catalyst for music, Black music in Canada, man. Like, how cool is that? So I knew I wasn't just making a record. I just knew we had something big, right? But I also knew the importance of it at the same time, that we're on the world stage right now, for what it's worth, for how big hip hop is at the time, we're on the world stage. And the Canadian hip hop national anthem is a song called Let Your Backbone Slide. You know what I'm saying?
Didn't you tour with Public Enemy?
Yeah, we did a couple of shows with PE. Shout out to Chuck. But before that, I got to say a special shout out to Young MC, because I did a Canadian tour when Young MC, when he came with Bust a Move back in the days. You know, that's what opened me up to going to Vancouver for the first time, Saskatchewan for the first time,
Yeah.
Winnipeg for the first time.
Because what I was wondering was whether touring with Public Enemy or getting to know Public Enemy influenced you on making more socially conscious music. You saw that then them trying to have an impact on their music as well.
Well, the greatest hip hop album of all time to me is "It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back."
Yeah.
Public Enemy, right? My favorite hip hop song might be "Rebel Without a Pause" by Public Enemy, right? At least in my top 3, if not my favorite, right? So they definitely had an influence on their sound, but the social commentary as well. And I took what they said seriously. I took that to heart. And I realized that the Most High put me here for a reason, to have a major impact on my community beyond just the parameters of rap music at the time, you know? So I always took that seriously. You can tell by listening to my songs then, and you can tell by listening to my songs now.
Amazing, man.
So
amazing. Can you talk to me about "Stick to Your Vision"? That was a big sort of a comeback record for you. I remember, to be honest, I think I was in junior high or high school, right? So, like, I only knew you as Maestro. I only knew that from that video on Much Music. It was a really big deal to me in my kind of community growing up, my generation growing up. And it was also a really big deal in Canadian music because you sampled "These Eyes" by the Guess Who. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that song came about? Did they ever reach out to you about it?
Yeah, well, let's start off first by saying me sampling Canadian rock records is nothing new, because "Drop the Needle" was a sample from a group called Haywire of the Maritimes.
Yeah, Prince Edward Island.
Song called Dance Desire, right? So that's something I like to do. "These Eyes," I grew up listening to that song, and I remember saying to myself, I'd love to redo that. So what I did was I put a little demo together. Shout out to Frankenstein, who's a producer. I did it initially on my Roland W30, and then I gave it to him for him to do, his version of it, which was the same 8-bar loop. Right, dum 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 dum. And once again, my father bought that 45 record for me. And "These Eyes," "Seen a Lot of Shame in the Game," that was all written or what have you. And this is when I was trying to get a second record deal. So I remember going to the Montreal Music Festival, was called.
Yeah.
Montreal Music Conference.
Yeah.
And I remember Susan Abramovich. I was sitting beside Chris Taylor on the plane, who later ended up being Drake's lawyer, entertainment lawyer. And he's like, "Wes, when we come back to Toronto, let's chop it up," because I wanted to go through like a whole new phase of shopping my music, what have you. So in Montreal now, I went to one of the conferences, and this entertainment lawyer by the name of Susan Abramovich, she was on a panel, and she was just talking about all the artists that she represents. And when she said Randy Bachman, I'm like, yo, we got to talk, because I got a song it was called "These Eyes" at the time, right? That I'd like to get sample clearance for this. I think it'll be a big record. So we went through the whole process. She connected me with Randy Bachman, who didn't like a couple of the words. I had chicks from every nationality grabbing my anatomy. He didn't like that. So we changed it to chicks from every nationality, showing hospitality. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that, man.
Yeah. So we're hearing the story. And Too Rude is a good friend of mine / upcoming producer. Let me see if we could do a remix to this. Let Rude put his version, his addition to what's already done. So with his instrumentation on top of what was already done, I mean, this is "These Eyes," a classic Canadian record. And just to see what the song did, because that song was really about perseverance and taking it to the next level. And that's kind of what I needed back then, because that was symbolizing the 10-year anniversary of me. That's a very important record, because if I didn't have "Stick to Your Vision" coming out in 1999, people would have forgotten a lot of the stuff I had in between, like Conducting Things, Fine Tune the Mic with Showbiz, all those records. That kind of was like a nice decade of me being known as the Maestro Fresh Wes. So that was a very important record.
I'm happy you mentioned perseverance there, because it was something I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, this whole thing that we're talking about, you were the first, like you were this pioneer of Canadian hip hop at a time when there wasn't there just wasn't a lot of hip hop happening across Canada, but especially like in terms of like music industry support, there was nothing. I mean, I was talking to Ron Nelson about how when he was doing Fantastic Voyage on Toronto Campus Radio, that was kind of it. There was no commercial radio hip hop stations. And on the This Is Not a Drake podcast, Cardinal Offishall, talked about how industry executives in Canada didn't give hip hop the respect it deserved, how it failed him. I want to play a clip for you.
I literally was exploding around the entire planet except in my own country. And it's like I saw them have to play catch up. Seems to be doing very well everywhere else, so I suppose we should probably support him now. And that hurt because the first time I got signed to an American label, my first song, the hook said, "Everybody knows it's the T-Dot." My whole narrative has been one that has taken my city and my country and put it on my shoulders, and I endured ridicule for years. And then when we had this moment, we didn't even celebrate it here.
What do you think when you hear that?
First of all, Cardinal's my favorite Toronto MC. That's my nephew right there. You know, I have mixed feelings. You know what I'm saying? I agree with him, and it sucks, man, because it's like we've worked so hard. People don't know what the blood, sweat, and tears we put in to this. You know what I'm saying? Through years, man. You know, and to have my brother feel that way and have to say that after what he's done, you know, while he was saying that, I was thinking back to the Dream Warriors, because the Dream Warriors, they did a lot of stuff internationally, man. They blew up internationally back like 10 years prior, you know, back in like in the early 1990s. And it was like the same thing where the rest of the world is giving them love. They got some love in Canada, right? But they got a lot of love in Europe as well. So when Cardinal said that, that's why I chuckled, because it's like the same old, you know?
That's how you feel. Hey, these things have just been happening. These things just continue to happen throughout the whole time.
Yeah. And my thing is, listen, man, I appreciate being appreciated. I know that what I've done inspired a lot of artists, but my whole thing is, to be honest, I'm not one of those artists that, you know, I came out, you heard my story. I wrote my first rhyme in 79, you know, performed for the first time, rap in 79. You know what I'm saying? So at 2023, I don't really want to cry over spilled milk. You know what I mean? I want to be like, what contribution am I continuing to do? You know what I'm saying? What am I continuing to do? You know, so that was an old interview with Cardinal, and to see where he's at right now professionally with Universal, you know, you got to tip your hat off to that guy, because I met him when he was like 13.
What was he like when he was 13 and you met him?
Well, he was just excited to be like murdering MCs. Like he just, it was at some talent show. I can't remember. I think it was Ontario Place or something, you know? And just to see him grow, man, like that's that guy.
What's it been like for you to see?
And where did I learn that from, Tom? I learned that from Public Enemy.
What do you mean?
Okay, what I meant by what I learned that from Public Enemy is when up and coming artists show love,
yeah,
keep inspiring them to continue. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. I can't remember exactly what I told him, but he does. You know?
Didn't you do that with Drake too? Like weren't you guys on a TV show? Like he was on Degrassi and you were on another show and you guys met or something like that?
Yeah, the first thing Aubrey told me is like, yo, my music is coming. And he wasn't lying. You know, he took it to the next level, you know, definitely. But yeah, I know him from when he was doing Degrassi and I was doing a show called Instant Star. Definitely. So we have a bond, man. We like the alpha and the omega in a lot of ways when it comes to this genre of music. And it was an honor to be a part of his show last summer, man. Like how cool was that? Like to do that OVO show and set it off too. So, you know, we've come a long way, man. We've definitely come a long way.
For people who don't know, Drake did a big show at this club called History in downtown Toronto, where he invited some of the, you know, the pioneers of hip hop it was called the Northern All Stars or something like that.
Like that, man. I just know that Aubrey was there and he asked me to be a part of it, and it was an honor to be there with all those other artists, man. Definitely.
Before I let you go, this is Hip Hop Week here on Q, and like I said, we wouldn't be able to do Hip Hop Week. I think we'd be taken off the air of doing Hip Hop Week on the CBC if we didn't have Maestro Fresh Wes on the show. And we've been asking everybody this question, and it's a bit vague, and I want you to answer it however you want. What has hip hop given you?
Yeah, that's a vague question, but I'd say that hip hop has given me confidence. Hip hop has given me a lot of relationships, man. Hip hop has helped me find myself. And when I say that, I mean, let's say I'm going through records by the Meters. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking for is drums, like a drum break. But while I'm going through the drum, like looking through the record, I'm listening to a chorus of a song called "Find Yourself." You see what I'm saying? And hip hop helped me find who I am. Like I'm here for a reason. I know that there's a reason why the Most High put me here to do what I'm doing. And as I go through this journey called life, I'm finding myself, and hip hop is a very important part of that journey. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what hip hop means to me. Everything I do, like right now, my son, he's going into the 10th grade, but it was mandatory that he did reading every day, 20 minutes reading. So the book that I had him read this summer was the autobiography of Malcolm X. You see what I'm saying? So who reinforced that book to me? It was Public Enemy. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I knew of it from Roots and Alex Haley, who wrote the book like years prior to that. But it was hip hop that reinforced the importance of social commentary. It was hip hop that reinforced the importance of consciousness. So as we're here now in 2023, and my son is telling me people don't really check for lyrics. It was mandatory that he's reading the autobiography of Malcolm X for the summer. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. While he's doing whatever he's doing, traveling in Toronto and yada, 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 I made sure that he sat down for a few minutes daily. And the reason I got reinforced to that book was through hip hop.
It's a beautiful thing. Maestro, thanks so much for making the time for us, man. And thank you for everything over your career of incredible hip hop in Canada.
Thanks for having me.